Hello and welcome to Balanced and Blissful Energies. I'm Elizabeth Echevarria, your podcast host, and I'm so happy to be here today with Marysol Ximenez Carrillo. She is an amazing singer and soul healer, cosmic teacher. Many monikers could be used to describe her work, but Marysol, I'm going to let you describe what you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love talking with you, so I feel grateful to be here. And yes, how to describe it. So if I would use three terms, I would say singer, sound healer, and energy channel. And so, as you know, I had a whole career on stage in musical theater, and over many years dove into the world of energy work and then into sound healing using my voice. And then I transitioned a few years ago. So I work with my voice, use that as a channel as well to bring through what is meant to come through. And I'm sure we'll go into that more. So to just give you a brief overview. So I work as a channel with people individually, but also with groups. And I create or receive and then offer cosmic journeys. And really enjoy working with people in this way. And singing has always been a big part of my life, and I'm really happy that I was able to take it into this area of my work now. And yes, so that's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, it's a very succinct nutshell, but the power of what you do is very intense. And so I don't think that we can do it justice just by saying, that's it in a nutshell. So let's dive in.
Yes.
Let's start with how you went from a singer on stage, singer and performer, not just singer, right? You were doing plays as well.
Yes.
So how did you go from there to a sound healer?
So, I suffered from severe depression in my later teens and 20s because I never really fit into this world, and I was overwhelmed by my sensitivity and all that I sensed and felt, and I didn't fit in, and it was a very tough time for me. But that brought me onto my true spiritual path, and I sought the help of some therapists, but they weren't really able to help me. So I found some incredible people that work in the field of energy healing and consciousness and spirituality, and that opened doors for me. And then over the many years while I was on stage, I participated in many courses, worked with many people, and just had so many beautiful, things that occurred during that time. And it kept going deeper and deeper. And then at some point I felt the desire to work with people as well. And that then took me onto my path of discovering how I could serve as a channel. And I started exploring the sound healing with my voice. So it was like a whole build-up over years. And I started working with people on the side next to my theater work. And then a few years ago, it shifted and I stepped into this fully. And it was interesting timing because it was in 2020 when, let's just say, the madness hit. And so everything shut down, and I wanted to take time to give this part of my life with the energy work and the sound healing work more time and space anyway. And and then I decided to set myself up online because I wanted to be not dependent on a specific country or place. And so I started that. And then once the theater world opened up again, if you didn't comply to certain things, you were just out. And so, I just embraced this path fully as it called to me anyway. And the timing was kind of perfect for it. And so I've been doing that full time since, and it's been very rewarding.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I just want to, explore a little bit about the experience that you had as a teenager, maybe even earlier of, you mentioned, I think, somewhere on your website that there was like a loneliness about it, a feeling like you didn't really belong in this world. Do you want to just touch on that a little bit? Because I think that a lot of starseeds have that experience, and it's beautiful to see how you come out the other side. But just to get that resonance with where you were at before and with where you are now.
Yeah, I was really homesick and I didn't know to where. There was this just hole in me, and I had a loving, I have a loving family. And so I didn't really know why I felt this hole inside of me and this not belonging. And the best I can describe it is really the word homesickness. Homesickness to something that was not earthly, let's put it that way. But back then, of course, I didn't know what that was. And so I think that part of me that was always very connected to the non-physical, sensing so many things, there was just so much in this world that I couldn't really cope with. And it was that deep longing to returning to where we're from, where we feel at home. And so that was a very long period of time where I felt like existing was just so painful, like without even anything bad happening, but just being here was such a challenge.
Yeah. I think a lot of us can resonate with that.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
many cover it up with just doing a lot of things, getting really involved in a lot of activities just to keep busy and not be in touch with the feelings. And then others are really sensitive and empathic and do more of like the isolation and protection so that they're not so influenced by the crazy outside world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you sensed that homesickness, and you've identified since then what is your strongest galactic origin. Can you share that with us? Yeah.
I feel at home in the Andromedan vibration that came to me many, 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 many years ago when I didn't even know much about it. And I've always felt that connection, and I feel a strong Syrian connection as well, but that comes like an extra aspect. So those are two aspects that I feel strongly. There's a Lyran part that I feel, but it's like centered around the Andromedan vibration at this time, I feel.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that aligns so beautifully with your artistic work and your singing and all of the light codes that you generate. And how do you experience it when you're connecting with the Andromedans?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I mean, as you know, every star race, the sensation of it is so different depending on which beings you connect with. And Andromeda for me has something, my personal experience, it's of the heart. I feel like it's a very high vibrational advanced race, of course, as they all are, but there's a deep connection to what we carry in our heart space here. It's like they carry something that lets us remember so very deeply, and that connects us to a very compassionate and deep part within us. That's what I feel. So there's something about it that is very nurturing, very loving. It's a very powerful vibration, but there's such gentleness to it. And I'm trying to put something into human words that like I'm not finding the right words, but yeah, that's how I would kind of describe it if I have to use human terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you work with clients, do you always connect with the Andromedans, or does it vary?
It varies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And is that determined by the client's vibration, or is it like, how do you decide, or is it just something that comes to you? Yeah.
I don't decide anything. I just step back and I just offer my services as the channel. Or as a channel for that to come through, which wants to come through. So depending on what is needed, I will receive certain visuals and information of what is meant to be seen in that moment. So it definitely varies.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I guess because I've experienced your healing sessions, I've experienced it in group and also in a one-on-one session. And it is unique, definitely. And there's so much information that you're able to transmit both on an energetic sound as well as with words. And like yeah, how is it that you get into, like, does that information come to you already ahead of time? Like, are you already planning, or is it just totally in the moment?
No, I don't plan anything. I mean, I prepare the space, that I do, but I don't plan anything because, yeah, I think the most can happen if we give it the space that it needs. Because if we think we know something of how somebody should do something, that's also our humanness and then trying to put something into a box or something. But if we're open to anything and just focus on the highest good of the person or the group that we're working with and allow that to come through, which wants to be seen, then we can truly assist people, because something may come through that I would have never thought of or not aware of that might seem very strange to me. And then when I voice it, it makes complete sense to the client. So that would be a shame to miss all of that. So I've learned to completely trust it. And sometimes I'll get like a quick image before the session starts. And then as a person starts to explain why they're meeting with me, like the pieces will come together and the image I saw will make sense. Like it's a vibrational image, and the rest then fills in when we dive in.
And how about for group sessions? Because you do plan a lot of like group work in advance and you advertise it, etc. So is that also a download? Like this is what the field needs right now, or yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with my monthly sound healing journey, which is like a little bit more than an hour, a guided meditation, a guided inner journey where I sing live as well. And so, of course, I advertise it a few weeks before. So I tune in and I ask what the journey should be. First, I ask for the topic. And it's interesting because sometimes I'll think, oh, I have a really good idea. I want to do this. And then I tune in and I get the message, no, great idea, but it's not the time for it. Do this. And I've learned to listen to it. And then when the time comes, I'm always really happy that I listened, because it always fits the time and the energy. And so then I start writing, and then I just ask to be given the information that I have to write down in order to offer it to people. And then I just write, it just kind of flows out, and then I leave it. And then a few days before the event actually is taking place, I tune in and I just ask to be shown like the structure of the journey. So I'll kind of get the outline of it, and then the rest fills in as I go with the group. So when I'm fully in the group space, I kind of know where it's going. I have like a few points that I know where we're going to go, but it'll then fill in, and sometimes depending on the group field, something may change completely or fall away. So I'll just follow that guidance then as I move through it.
Yeah, I can only reflect that your journeys are really amazing. Like it's just,
Thank you.
You really get transported, and I think it depends on the person, like the participant as well, how much they'll be able to see or feel. But in my experience, I feel like I'm journeying with you through space and time. Yeah, so it's really cool. And I think you're a master of it, how you mix in with the music and the singing and making it feel so special and so profound.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, see, I also wanted to ask you about how others, so I know my experience, it was transformational, and I'll just mention for people to know about it, that one of the sessions with you was about opening up the throat chakra. And after this session, I was toning in my house. I was alone, one of those days that I'm alone, and just, like it really just in the zone. And I think I was toning and singing maybe for half an hour, 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden I started to channel. And that was my first experience channeling. And I think it was light language first, and then came the channeling. So it was definitely something very moving for me. It was definitely very activating. But what other client experiences can you share with us?
Well, thank you for sharing that, and that is wonderful. And thank you. Thank you for letting me know about that. There are many different ways that people experience the journeys and the sessions, but I do receive a lot of very moving messages afterwards. And some things that always really move me is when people write to me that they've come into contact with a part of them that they had felt very disconnected from. So it's kind of like a returning to something that has been forgotten and may have felt lost at times, but just needed to be reconnected to. So a lot is about the heart. It's a lot about trusting yourself again and self-worth, finding your worthiness again. So I receive a lot of messages concerning those issues. And I mean, I'm very grateful that people enjoy my voice in the way they seem to do. So I receive messages where they say that they feel like my voice moves through the dimensions and opens something in them that they were able to release or activate something on deep levels. And that really moves me because that's exactly what I sense when I sing in these sessions, because I really feel the voice moving through the quantum space and assisting and supporting that which is occurring. There's so much that I feel in that moment. So of course, when people give me that feedback, I'm very grateful for that there's that resonance and that they experience that in the same way. So, I mean, a lot can happen depending on where you are in your journey, what you're ready for. It may be what we may label as small things or the big things where like big shifts happen. But yeah, there are beautiful things that happen.
Yeah. Wow. And I didn't mention this beforehand, but I wonder if you'll share some of your light language or, singing with us, either now or maybe later towards the end.
Yeah, maybe at the end, because I'd have to switch to my singing microphone.
Yep.
So maybe then at the end and I can switch over.
So now you know, stay tuned so that you get to Marisol's beautiful singing voice at the end. Wonderful. You had experiences also before with, conventional therapy, but can you go with us, like what were your different, you mentioned you went through a lot of different therapies, and how did you go scaling? How did you experience the changes from, conventional medicine type approaches to where things began to resonate more and more with you? Mm-hmm. And because many people are going through this journey where they have an illness or maybe symptoms that doctors can't really say there's anything organically wrong, right? Like they can't give a diagnosis to. And then they don't really know where to go, because there's so much to offer. Mm. But maybe it's all in the journey, right? Maybe it's all in you try one thing and the next, and it's like every little bit gets a deeper layer. How was your experience with that healing journey?
Yeah, it was interesting. And of course, I'm not a medical professional. I don't make any claims in that sense. And I'm sure there are also good therapists out there. But I do believe that in that field, it's a lot that just goes on in the mental plane. There's a lot of analyzing, but it kind of only goes to a certain level. And if it's then not so clear what's going on, like the entire energetic field is just completely ignored, what's going on there. And so for me, since I had these severe depressions, if I didn't have my spiritual belief, I don't know, I may have been suicidal, but I knew then I'd have to come back and do it all over again. So I thought, might as well get through it now. I have a good life. I might as well do it now. But yeah, it's just, I realized it would only go to a certain level. And I sat in front of the therapist, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but I knew what they were going to say. It was really weird. It was like textbook, and I just knew what they were going to say. And I thought, this is not getting me anywhere. I know these things. But what is it underneath that? What is causing that? And I do believe that our body tells us if there's something, disease, dis-ease, if something is out of balance. And of course, sometimes it's harder to get to the core of something, and sometimes the soul may have chosen a very difficult path where you wonder, why was that person healed so quickly and that person has such a long, difficult path, even though they're doing like everything. So it's also about honoring every person's path, and we don't always know what is behind that path. But for me, at some point, I realized I needed to go deeper, and that what I was looking for, I was not going to find with conventional therapy. And so thankfully, I've always been aware of the unseen worlds and what that means to a certain extent back then. And so I then started actively looking for people that work in this field. And there's one woman in particular that I met in Berlin where I was studying, and she offered soul journeys. And so I started working with her, and that was a game changer because she's clairvoyant, she's clairsentient, and she started going into past lives, into my unconscious childhood, and things that all of a sudden brought so much to light that made so much sense, and the pieces of the puzzle just started falling into place. But that was, of course, an approach from a completely different angle, but that just opened all the doors. So I think as a collective in humanity, we've just moved so far from that which we truly are and the potential we have. But I also think we're coming back to it now. That's why everything is in so much turmoil, because it's like the old doesn't want to be let go of, and the new's already pushing and here and wanting to be seen. So I do believe that the next decade is going to be crazy, let's put it that way, but also in a good way, with a lot of good things coming back and people awakening to their true power and abilities.
Yeah, it's like a birthing process, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. And just to take it then, so you were, let's say you were on a certain timeline, the artist, performer timeline, and then you jumped into your healer timeline, cosmic healer, sound healer, and let's talk a little bit about that idea of like tuning into a higher timeline, or just a different timeline. How do you perceive it, and how do you, like you just mentioned, you had this soul journey experience with a practitioner, and she was part of that, tuning you to that higher timeline, starting to make you aware of it through working out some energetic issues and possibly some past life issues, right? That may have been providing some static to aligning to that higher timeline. So how do you work with clients to help them align to some higher timeline for them?
So, well, first of all, I think, what does higher timeline mean? Highest timeline to me is the path where you live authentically, where you live in alignment with who you are, where you follow that which you are called to, where you release that which no longer serves you, so that you can ultimately lead a life that is in alignment with you and that serves your highest good and feels fulfilled. So in stepping onto that highest timeline, and I think it's all connected, like my theater work was so important to me, and to this day I'm still a performer, and I don't want to stop completely, but I know it's going to shift into something that's going to be a little different. So everything has shifted, so you can't go back to the old ways. And how to assist others with stepping onto their highest timeline, it is about remembering who you are, reconnecting to your origins, to your cosmic origins. And it's a lot about, I personally believe, the relationship you have to yourself, feeling worthy. Because if you have beliefs of, I'm not worth it, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it anyway, then you're not in the resonance of attracting that which isn't aligned for you. So you're probably going to attract situations that mirror to you that you feel unworthy. So I think that's a huge part of it, to really look at, what is the relationship you have with yourself? How do you treat yourself? Because if you learn to release that which doesn't serve you any longer and clear that which needs to be cleared, and allow yourself to step into that which you truly are, with all that you are, with everything that comes with it, with being human. It's not about being perfect, because none of us are. but to find your perfection in the imperfection and to release the judgment of yourself. And from that point, then actively taking that step, as we would say maybe in human terms, but also vibrationally step, to say, I am worthy of living my best life. I am worthy and deserving, and I allow things to come to me also. So there's a dynamic of force often when we try to force something and make it happen. And stepping onto your highest timeline also has a lot to do with trusting and allowing and knowing it is done, to relaxing into it, and then from that point moving into inspired action, but not forced action. So there is a huge element of trust, letting go, and also detaching from outcome, because maybe sometimes the way we imagine it, maybe there's something even better waiting. And so sometimes we wonder, I have this too, where you're like, why hasn't this shown up, or why hasn't this come together yet? And the message I always get for myself is, be patient, it's being woven in perfect timing. Things still need to come together. And then I have this image of something being woven in the background that's maybe not visible yet on the outside, but it's being prepared. And then things happen, and I'm like, oh yes, now it makes sense. That needed to come to this, and this needed to come to this. And then it starts making sense. So I know that was a long answer, but I think that all goes into the question of how to step onto your highest timeline.
Yeah, I felt like you were talking directly to me, because I've been in this, I don't want to say struggle, but it does sometimes feel like a struggle where you have a vision, or you have a calling of what it is that you're really meant to do, and you take a step, and then but there's like this pull, this tug of war kind of thing, past, present. It's not like, I want to say, like, everything you say resonates with me 100%, and I'm there, I totally buy into it with my mind and with my heart, but then when it's action time, like, I find the same patterns just repeating themselves, of like, well, why hasn't this happened yet? Or do I need to do more? Letting go of past roles, not wanting to. It's a big process.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm moving through it too, and I always tell myself, practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's easy to say it, but to do it, that's another story. And I mean, if you like, I'll share my own experience with this at this moment.
Yeah, please.
So I do really miss being on stage the way I was, because I am a performer and I love it. Not for the applause, but being on stage, singing with an orchestra, and even there, serving as a channel to offer people music, to touch their hearts, to tell a story. So moving into this work, and I create the music, but I have much grander visions for retreats and concerts. So I would like to just do this and have like the perfect musicians with me that just have the same, that are on the same wavelength. And I can get impatient, because I'm so inspired that I get impatient sometimes. So all that I've described now is what I'm trying to practice, or not trying, which I am putting into practice myself bit by bit, to trust that I will meet the people I'm meant to meet for this new chapter of my life. And the more I relax and let it go, I've now made some beautiful connections, and that we're going to explore where that's going to go. But I totally get what you're saying. And I think it's also not something where you just flip a switch, like it's a process. And it's allowed to be. And I think that's the importance, that we learn to honor and love ourselves through that process. And it may be easier on some days, and on some days it's harder, and it feels really challenging. And I think it's important to speak about that, because especially in the spiritual community, when we speak about all these things and the highest timelines and all of that, and a lot of people think, yeah, well, great, but I can't do that, or it's much harder for me. But everyone speaking about it goes through their things as well. And I think it's important that we all stay open and show a certain level of vulnerability to say, we're all in this together, we're all in the same boat. And it's about navigating these challenges, because we're all human.
Absolutely.
And none of us has it all figured out, Yeah. I don't think anybody It has. And if someone says I've got all the answers, then I don't believe them.
Right.
So
then there's not a huge amount that they're blind to.
Yeah. So
Right.
I think it's normal that it takes time and that we stumble on the way and take detours and that it's a process. But for me personally, and then I'll bring it to full circle, but the way I treat myself as I move through it, that's key to me. How do I treat myself? That's been hugely important for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very wise. Very, very wise. Yes. Yeah. And, you mentioned that like in the spiritual community, there's a tendency to want to, sugarcoat everything and or just stay very superficial in a way, just say, oh, let go and trust. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say that. But, I think part of why this spiral of becoming community idea came to me, or I was channeled it, is for exactly these kinds of exchanges and experiences, and to learn from what's going on also energetically from the field, like the cosmic field, the earth field, and how we can learn from each other and navigate it together. We're each other's mirror. You mentioned it a few times already. And you're going to be participating as a guest in the Spiral of Becoming. That's going to be, what did we say, July 24th?
Yes.
It's a new moon in Leo, and I'm really excited for that. But yeah, this is part of the growth process, is not sugarcoating things. It's really being honest with yourself and being honest with others and going deep, not being scared of going deep, because I always say there are treasures at the bottom of that well, or whatever it is that you have to go digging through, from either your subconscious, past lives, current lives, trauma issues. There's always something valuable that comes out of it. And by, ignoring it, or, just pretending like it's not necessary because we're at a high frequency, well, actually, the higher you go, the lower you have to go to bring it into balance. Otherwise, you become very ungrounded, and that doesn't help you. And it doesn't help those around you either, because you can't connect with them anymore.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. One of the experiences that I had with you is with a whole bunch of goddesses. Do you want to talk about what it feels like to work with them? I remember Kuan Yin and Isis, and tell me about your experience with them.
Well, yeah, there are a few that I've always felt very connected to, even when I didn't know who they were or what they stand for. It was actually really nice a couple of weeks ago, and I'm beginning 40s now. And I said to my mom, I said, didn't I have this Ankh necklace when I was a teenager? Like the Ankh symbol.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, you did. And I said, do you still have that? I didn't think she'd still have it. But she actually still had it. She had it in a little box where she kept like old jewelry, like nothing expensive, just to play around with for my nieces. And it was still there. And I thought back then in my childhood, I was very drawn to the Ankh symbol and a few other things. And then later I realized that I already sensed the connection to the lineage, but I wasn't aware, of course, of what that was. And Kuan Yin as well. So the vibration and frequency of what Kuan Yin stands for has really helped me to become gentler with myself, because I used to be really hard on myself and so judgmental, and like I beat myself up emotionally like there was no tomorrow. So she's really helped me to ease up on myself. And I think that now, as that divine feminine is returning, and we're all called to bring the sacred feminine and masculine within all of us back into balance, so that the distortion that has been present on this planet for thousands of years, that now it can be brought into alignment again and be healed, or brought into alignment is maybe the best term, or brought into balance.
Right.
And so the presence of these goddesses to me just feels so nourishing and empowering at the same time. And what I love about when they speak to me or give me messages is always, you are us and we are you and you are us. So that they mirror to us that which we seek and that we are that already. So to not give our power away. And at the same time, being held in that vibration just feels so nourishing, but also sparking that deep remembrance to something that we already are, that we've just forgotten. And there's so much ancient wisdom in that. And I feel like they bridge, how do I say that with human words? Because outside of this earth, there's no time, there's no future, no present, no past. It's all one. And journeying with the goddesses, it's kind of like, and also with other beings, but it's like that the wisdom of the ancient and the sacred and the divine feminine and these teachings, it's like they're being brought back from our perceived past, but there's also something coming in from the future, from the star beings, and it's all blending. It's so hard to explain, but yeah, maybe the words nourishing and empowering and bringing back a deep remembrance of something very pure and sacred. Maybe that brings it together in the best way.
Beautiful. Yeah. I also have been called to work a lot with the divine feminine and the sacred union. And it is very present right now, thank goodness. Yeah. Because we did need it to bring it back into balance. Okay, so I guess we're at the point where I'm thinking, well, this is an interesting question. There are a lot of people waking up right now, and a lot of people feel called to go into healing work, to help others. Like, you go through your journey, your healing journey, and then you naturally want to help others. What advice do you think, or what advice do you have for those who are, a little bit newer on the path, but gone through or are going through their healing journey and they want to give back as well?
Don't wait till you think you're ready. You'll never be ready. I think when you have a calling, just take the next step. You don't have to know what the 10th step is. You just have to start. And as I said before, none of us has all the answers, and to trust that you are here with a unique frequency. And as long as you come from a place of integrity and authenticity and love and respect and kindness, and offer that which you bring, and you learn to embrace that which you have, then trust that those people that can benefit from you and from what you offer will find their way to you. So there may be someone that goes into resonance with what I do. Someone else may not. They may see someone else and say, oh, that's the frequency I need. That's the person I need. And that's the beauty of it, that we all share our gifts in so many different ways. So to trust that which you offer will find those people who need that which you offer, and to just always take the next step, because it can seem very overwhelming once you step onto this path and all that comes with it. And so I've learned to just embrace the next step and then take it bit by bit, and then the things come together as you move along this path. That's what I'd say. Yeah. Don't wait to be ready.
Beautifully said, and you are consistent, because I'm pretty sure that you said that to me at one of our early sessions. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, if you would like to share some light language or singing, whatever it is that comes, I'm sure that we're all very excited for it.
Yes, I'll just switch to my singing microphone and then we can go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ask for a transmission just with my voice a cappella for everyone listening. Everyone that will ever tune in for that group field. And let's see. To receive the light codes that spark a deep remembrance of that which you truly are at your core. Yes, and so just take a deep breath in. Allow yourself to be fully present. Allow your body and your being to opening up from within. And then just breathe in the sound and trust that you receive in the perfect way for you in this moment. Yo me amia ora Amoye Maria ya yo Ume yo Maria ti jaya Ora yo Maya mia yo Re Maya mojai Re Maya yo Amu emira yamai Amara yamayamo Jato iro jayoreya Jamaria jayamai Kuro joyokari Joro jaya merio Kurayamo amoriyamaya rehayameyo emoyami reyamai kuroyorayame joroyoraya amahimaya tomariyoy amareyomai tojai huyo. And so take a deep breath in through your entire body. Focus on the space of your heart. And then breathe out through your heart space into all directions. And if you like, you can say out loud, I allow myself to truly remember, and so it is. And then with your breathing, fully come back into your body, to this time, to this place, and slowly open your eyes.
Amazing. That was so beautiful. Thank you,
Thank you.
Marisol.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. So I want to just thank you for joining us for this podcast and tell the folks how they can get in touch with you. Of course, we'll have all the information in the show notes, but
Yes. So you can find everything basically on my website, which is just Marisol, my first name, .vision. And I have a YouTube channel with free offerings, free music, free meditations. It's called Marisol, the magical sound of your soul. So you can find a lot of stuff there. And yes, on my website is my booking calendar. I have a bit of a waiting period at the moment, but you can check out which dates are available if you're interested. And I have an events page on my website, so you can find all the upcoming group events on there as well. And there's a contact page. So yes, that's where you can find everything.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this content and similar content, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It makes all the difference. Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Marisol.
Thank you.